Rev up your engines! Okay, here's a cute little 2008 Mercedes-Benz SLK 55 AMG V8 engine. Although it's really dirty today, what kind of shape is it in? Customer wants to know. He's had it for 3 years, hasn't put any money in it yet. Is it worth putting more money into it, or is it time to say bye-bye? Now you gotta consider the original person paid about 64 grand for this thing. He bought it for about $18,000 3 years ago, hasn't put any real money into it. Now he likes the power. It's got 355 horsepower. It's got a pretty good 7-speed automatic transmission in it. Being that it's really small, it's also really heavy. If you put a couple of fat guys in the thing, the weight will be over 2 tons. Even as you can see, it's not that long. Now it is a fast little sports car, but because of the weight and the power, it gets about 13 miles a gallon in the city, 19 on the highway. So it's pretty much a gas hog for a tiny little car. But the 3 years he's owned it, he's been happy with it. He hasn't had to put any real money into the thing. So out comes a serious scan tool, plug it in. As you can see, it's no different than any other car. You just find a plug. Now it's on. You can see the lights are glowing. Well, just turn the key on. So the idiot lights are on and it's not running. I'll go to Mercedes, automatically search. You can get all kinds of information here. We can tell here, it's not a fake AMG. Sometimes guys stick badges on, but by the serial number, this is an actual AMG. We'll do a system scan, and away it goes. And while we're waiting for the scan, I mean, it's a typical Mercedes. Even though it's 08 and somewhat older, there are switches, buttons, all kinds of controls here. Here we have the adjustments here. This is a convertible, but it's metal. It's a true 2-seater. Now when you look at the dash, we can see it says it's got 78,000 miles on it. You can see on the data on the top, 78,096 miles. No one's cheated on the speedometer on this one like people often will. So this is the real mileage. 12 years old, it's only got 78,000 miles. That's a good sign. Scan didn't find anything wrong. Now it's going through a health report to see if there's any codes on anything. Unlike many other cars, the Mercedes have various steps and various levels of analytics. If some clown at an auto parts store plugs a machine in this thing and says, oh no, it's fine, there's no trouble codes, that doesn't mean anything. That's the tip of the iceberg. There's various levels that you need these fancy machines for to really analyze one of these cars. See, there's red things coming up now. They're all green on the other test, but now there's things we're going to look at. Okay, let's check it out. We got a lot of reds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 26, 36, 37, 38, 4, 45, 48, 50. So it's got 53 codes going on here. Let's see if any of them are serious. We got problems with electronic stability. Program that's typical on these. Control module not identified. CAN communication is faulty. That the electronic ignition switch has an under voltage. The roof has voltage problem. The overhead control panel, CAN reception, the controller area network, that's the computer wiring system. Problem with the mirror automatically dimming. Control unit supply is too low. Control panel faults, switches closed. Supply voltage is too low. We're getting that a lot. So there's obviously some type of electrical short where it's not getting enough power. Short circuits and some of the lighting. Then there's 10 for the SAM, that's the signal acquisition mode. Then the audio system has 5 things. I see that all the time in these audio gateway. They're so complicated. Door module has a little problem. Electronic seat adjust with memory has problems. Convenience automatic air conditioning. Fan temperature sensor problem. Supply voltage is low. But all these other ones here, they're normal. Now what does all that say? Well, that says it's a typical Mercedes that's 12 years old. It has electronic flaws. But the guy's pretty much happy with the way that the thing runs. And really, this isn't like the G-Wagon I checked out last week, where stability control is a big thing because it's high. This baby's low to the ground. It's not something you have to worry about these things flipping over. It's not that big of a deal on something like this as it is with a big up-in-the-air G-Wagon that's heavy that could flip over. This thing, that's not really a problem if you drive normally. He used to drive fast, he says, with the grandkids. Now he drives normal. So let's start it up. Look at some of the live data. There's so much data on these things. Make your head spin. Test engine at idle speed. And here's the data. It's all pretty normal. Nothing weird. Now we'll check the values at idle speed. See if anything's oddball here. Everything's pretty normal. Big advantage of these machines, the fancy ones like this, they're color coded. If there is a fault, it's going to be a different color. It's not going to be that blue. I can see that right away that they're within specs, but I can look at them individually too and analyze them with what I know. I don't trust the machines all the time. Now I do notice under the hood when I rev up, you can hear a little groan. When I turn the wheel, power steering pump's groaning a little, which is kind of typical on these as they age. If it's not low on fluid, these things often groan a little bit. If you're an absolute fanatic, you replace the pump. But I've seen them go years and years, and they whine, steer fine. Who cares? Go a little bit further to data, signal from the cam's okay. Everything so far is pretty good for a vehicle of its age. So let's go under the hood. Check that out. We'll roll the window down so we don't get locked out. When we close the door, that's an important thing. And we'll check under the hood. Well, we need a rod. That doesn't work. No, the hydraulics cost a fortune. This costs 50 cents. So stick one in your trunk. There. Nice and solid now. We'll take a look under here. Get out of the way. Look at the power steering fluid. Over here. It's full of fluid. It's not leaking. So it groans a little. Who cares? It works fine. I spent all that money on something that still works perfectly fine. Now as we look around, other than this bird feather, must have been a cat around here somewhere. It's in pretty decent shape. There's no major leaks or anything. The front looks pretty clean. There's no cracked plastic parts from being wrecked and smacked up. Now the headlights have a little fade on them. That's typical. You can polish them off if you want. But for a 12-year-old Mercedes-Benz, with that real mileage that's actually low, shape that it's in, other than those nitpicky electronic crap that they all do as they age, it's a pretty decent vehicle actually, considering that he's had it for 3 years and back then he paid less than 1/4 of what the original list price was. I'd say it's actually a decent car. No, let's face it, you don't get a 2-seater to haul people around. There's no back seat. You want a cute little 2-seater to toy around with for that kind of money? If you don't pile the mileage on, it can actually be a decent toy to fool around with. It's worth putting brakes on it, and eventually it's going to need struts on it. It rides a little bit sloppy, but it's nothing outrageous. Now let's check the undercarriage. Pretty clean. Got those fancy tires on it. Gotta say, it's a decent car. No, I'm not a fan of these low profile tires because they have a tendency of riding a little bit rough. They handle great, but they ride a little rough and they cost a fortune when they finally go out. This guy has cheapy Taiwanese ones on because he didn't want to buy the super expensive ones, and since he's not dragging anymore, he's happy with these. He tells me they're not leaking air, they don't get flats, so they're decent. Original muffler, still in good shape, clean rear end, decent car. Now let's peek in the trunk, see what's inside here. Whoa, that's one heavy trunk. We'll have to do that over again. They're not the biggest trunks in the world, but this one's clean. You can see all the fancy convertible top stuff that folds in here when you put the top in. But it's clean, it's never been wrecked either. And now comes the real fun of driving it around. See how it rides. These are sporty little cars. Step on the gas and away it goes. And sure, on this old one at your corner, you can feel a little more bumps more than you should. I mean, it's a relatively small wheelbase to begin with, but the struts are worn. If he wants to get it to ride like new, I'd advise changing all the struts on it, but it's totally drivable the way it is. So here's a shocker for you. Scotty says, really isn't that bad of a deal. You did pay a lot less for it, so has some life left in it. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Daihatsu dude said, Scotty, there's currently a 1990 BMW 535i for sale on my street. Was such a car an endless money pick back even in the 1990s? Well, actually it wasn't back in the 1990s, but it will be today. If you're talking about a 30-year-old BMW, they are endless money pits. Now, back in the day, those were actually pretty good cars. I had a few customers with them, and they loved them. They were luxurious, but they handled well. And one guy had 180, and it was still going strong and hadn't had all that much work done on it. You talk about any car that's 30 years old, especially a German car, it gets expensive, and the parts on those are super, super, super expensive. You had a 1990s Ford or something, it's going to have problems too, but the parts are going to be pretty cheap because they mass produce them. There's an endless supply of aftermarket stuff. With the BMW, especially a 535i, not that easy to get parts for. I would stay away from that unless you want an endless repair toy that you can play with on the weekend and you know, you got time on your hand, you want to be working on it. Aiden Smith says, Scotty, I purchased an 08 Lexus IS 350, 190K. I don't use a cigarette lighter in a car, so I wonder if it's a good idea to swap the lighter to USB so I can charge stuff. Yes, realize that those cigarette lighter things are made for what? lighting cigarettes. You're better to swap it out to an actual USB port, hardwire it in, because when you plug the ones in, they're relatively inefficient. Some of them get too hot, they don't work all that well, and the radio frequency can actually mess with, if you have a keyless ignition system. Get a good one, have it hardwired in, a quality one, and then you won't have problems. Much better than some rigged thing you just plug in and pull out. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.